Hey everyone, it's Jose, and this is a quick, casual follow-up video from my latest video about the Xiaomi Leica camera partnership, because I basically just made that video based off of complete speculation and barely any evidence was given in that video, because I thought it was really hard to not only find evidence to support my thesis about uh, phone camera partnerships being somewhat questionable, because we can't really tell if camera partnerships are really putting any effort into improving cameras. But now with the reveal of the Xiaomi 12S series that just came out today, or at least July 4th, whenever this video is coming out, I'm just going to give my reaction and just follow through this video. I've already watched the entire live stream, and I'm just going to be basically going over my speculations and just to see if anything I said came true, or if anything interesting had came up during this presentation. Now, something I found to be really interesting at the very start of this presentation is that the CEO, Mr. Lei, basically went over how the Xiaomi phones over the years have always topped the DXOMARK, and DXOMARK is an photography institution. They also do audio testing, and they basically tell you what phone cameras are on par with meeting their criteria of exposure, saturation, and other things. And something that I found to be completely interesting is that Mr. Lei basically said that his Xiaomi phones always top the DXOMARK score. But if you look at articles and reviews and everything that everyone is saying online, although these Xiaomi phones are topping the DXOMARK scores, no one is recommending Xiaomi phones for photography, even though they're basically have been on the top spot numerous times over the years. And I found that to be really, really interesting to acknowledge this, because it is true. If you look at Android Authority reviews and any other reviews about what is the best phones for photography, it's always going to be an iPhone, a Google Pixel phone, or a Samsung device, and basically those three. It never really is the Xiaomi phones, even though they are topping the DxOMark scores. Now, these reviews are always based on opinion, because there's no such thing as a top photography phone. It really is based on opinion. But I found it to be really interesting that the CEO basically acknowledged this, because it is true. Not many people recommend Xiaomi phones for photography. And I thought it was seriously really interesting for this sort of reflection and acknowledgement that Xiaomi phones are not really recommended for their photography. Now, seriously, one of the strangest things that I came across during this presentation is that the CEO of Xiaomi basically acknowledged everything I was saying in my last video, that partnering with Leica or any other camera manufacturer, camera company, is basically just a PR stunt. Mr. Lei basically said that, oh, you just partner with Leica because you just want their name and their logo and not much else, right? So I found it completely baffling that Mr. Lei acknowledged this, because I never would have thought that this would have came across during the presentation. I thought it would have been the same thing we've seen with the Huawei presentations with, look, we got a quad penta ultra vision Leica camera setup for our P50 phones or whatever. I seriously thought this was that this Xiaomi presentation was gonna basically mirror the Huawei presentations, but I'm completely wrong on that. That did not happen during this presentation, and I find it really cool. I have a lot of respect for Mr. Lei for basically acknowledging this sort of idea that camera partnerships is basically PR. And honestly, this is so cool. This is honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a presentation for a phone, acknowledging basically a critical theory, or at least what I think is critical, even though this theory may not be super popular. Maybe it doesn't cross people's minds that, oh, camera partnerships are useless or whatever, but he acknowledged that. And I find that to be seriously really cool, because it really puts everything I said, everything I speculated in my latest video to be like almost countered in a way just by acknowledging it. And that is honestly really cool. I'm really happy that this happened. So another interesting thing is that in this presentation, the speaker basically said that they worked with Leica so that their new Xiaomi 12S phones are going to take, I guess it's implied that natural looking colors and stuff like that. And that reminds me of Vivo and Zeiss basically working together for that natural color mode. And from what I've seen, again, it looks like that natural color mode from Vivo and Zeiss actually works. And I guess there's one with Hasselblad and OnePlus of a natural color mode. And I guess that works too, but I think Vivo and Zeiss's work better. So I find that interesting that Xiaomi is also going down this route with Leica, that they want a sort of natural color mode for their phones. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, if a camera partnership means that you'll achieve this goal faster of having a natural color mode that's actually good, then yeah, I'm all for camera partnerships. But I just find it interesting that now we have basically 3 companies, OnePlus, Vivo, and now Xiaomi, that want to achieve a natural color mode for the phones. And I just found that to be interesting. We'd have to wait and see if this actually works or not. But my best bet is that it actually does work. And also during this exact same slide that we see right now, or maybe it's the next one, Xiaomi is open sourcing their computational photography to third-party partners who want it. And I find that to be honestly super cool, because open source computational photography doesn't really necessarily exist. I have talked about open source computational photography on this channel before, and that's the video on the future of smartphone photography or apps, where I basically talked about photon camera and motion cam, on how they have open source computational photography that mostly relates to HDR multi-stacking. But now Xiaomi, who actually has resources in R&D and everything with computational photography, they're gonna basically open source it, maybe not publicly on like GitHub or whatever, but if you're a partner and you want their computational photography, I guess they'll just give it to you. Whether there's a price on it or not, I don't know. It's open source, but even some open source things are paid. So I'm not sure, but I find it really cool that Xiaomi's that confident in their computational photography and are willing to give it to third-party partners. And although third-party partners is kind of vague, I'm not sure who would exactly want it. Like, I don't think Google wants Xiaomi's computational photography or whatever, but still, it's really cool that they're opening up to basically the industry with sharing their resources. And again, computational photography and giving it out to third-party people, that's really cool. Honestly, that's one of the coolest things ever. They did not need to go down that route, but they did it anyways. I don't know why they're doing it, but they're doing it. And honestly, that's really cool. That's seriously really cool. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Xiaomi 12S camera, just the base model. And we're going to look at these photos really quick, because basically, from what I've seen, they basically said that their Xiaomi 12S phones want to give you that authentic, century-old Leica color profile or color science. And if we see and look at this photo, if you look at the colors of the blue and the red on the old cars, it looks retro. I know the cars themselves are retro, but if you just look at all the colors in the scene right now, it's pretty retro. And that's basically what they've mentioned before with the century-old Leica look. And if you look again, this photo looks kind of retro. It looks nostalgic with the dark shadows and a lot of orange in the photo, and the sort of softness, I guess, adds to the retro look of the photo. But yeah, a lot of what they've showed has some sort of retro look. And although this retro look is, I guess, like nostalgic and stuff, it works really well. But I'm not too sure if you're going to get this retro look all across the board, or if it's just like this Leica authentic color profile or whatever that means. But so far, I do like the samples that they did show, but it's just something to acknowledge that, yeah, a lot of the photos are probably going to look retro, even on the base Xiaomi 12S, because we still have the 12S Pro and 12S Ultra. So since you're able to achieve this look on the base model 12S, I think that's pretty good. But still, I think it's probably something to consider. And then if we just skip forward a little bit, a little bit more. Here we go. So in this part, I found this to be really interesting. So you see the sensor sizes of popular phones. So we have Samsung to the far right, and in the middle, we have Huawei, and on the left, we have one Huawei phone and the Xiaomi 12S phone. Now, something that I just want to put this out there is that I never knew that the P50 Pro had a smaller sensor than the Mate 40 Pro phones. And the reason I'm saying this is because it caught me completely off guard that the Mate 40 phones had a better, or at least bigger sensor than the P50 phone. Because the Huawei P series of phones, the P basically stands for photography. So you're buying the P phones for photography, right? So you obviously want to put the better components in a photography-centric device. But then if you look at the Mate 40 phones, they have a bigger sensor, which does not necessarily mean that they took better photos, but it can help. And you got to remember, this is the same company. These are all, or those three are Huawei phones. So if you have a bigger sensor, chances are the photo is probably going to look better. But it's funny because the Mate 40 phones, or just the Mate phones, although they're also big on photography, the design elements of those phones are mostly based off of business, or at least some sort of business centric and industrial look, or however you want to put it. Just really nice looking phones. Even the P phones are really nice looking, but I just found that to be really interesting that the Mate phones are somewhat better photography wise than the P50 phones just by sensor size. So I just found that to be interesting. I never knew that, and I found that to be interesting. And then if you look all the way to the left, we see that the new Xiaomi 12S phone has the biggest sensor out of all of them. Now, this is a 2022 phone, and the other ones are basically 2021. Or the Samsung phone came out in 2022, I think. I forget. But yeah, I'm just saying the Xiaomi 12S is a very competitive phone besides camera quality. I'm not going to go over specifications of battery and stuff like that. This is just photography. But even still, the Xiaomi 12S phone is a really competitive phone. I wouldn't be surprised if people pick it for like the best compact phone, because throughout the presentation, it does look like that. So yeah, that's just worth mentioning. And then now we're going to take a look at the Leica color filters, which was basically on the Huawei phones, because the Huawei phones had 3 filters. One was called Leica Standard, Leica Vivid. What was the other one? I don't remember the other one. Oh well. But yeah, basically now there's Leica color filters or color profiles. I like to say color profiles. So we have Leica Authentic and Leica Vibrant. I think Leica Authentic is just the basic one. Like it doesn't. It's just like natural color science. It's not like gonna add weird saturation or whatever. Just like the Leica standard on the Huawei phones. It's just standard. So this is just the basic profile, right? And I find it interesting that it's coming to the Xiaomi phones because it's making me think Leica themselves are the ones. Oh, I'm gonna pause here really quick. Leica themselves are the ones that told Huawei, hey, you need to add this color profile because this is basically our color science on our cameras, and we need to give you that to the Huawei phones to meet certification or whatever. I'm thinking that's what's happening with these Xiaomi phones, that the Xiaomi Authentic and Xiaomi Vibrant is basically the same thing of, hey, if you want this like a camera partnership, you got to add these color profiles because of our history or color science or something like that. And now I'm just going to skip forward really quick. So here we have the iPhone 13 photo and the Xiaomi 12S photo using one of the Leica color profiles or something like that. And what I really want you to pay attention to is that if you look at the iPhone 13, the shadows casted from the tent and around the trees and stuff like that, the shadows are really boosted. And this is standard if you have a Samsung phone, especially if you have a Google Pixel phone. The shadows will always be boosted because of HDR. But with the Xiaomi 12S, they did not boost those shadows. They left the shadows to be somewhat dark. Now you can still see the subjects and the objects in this scene, even with the darker shadows. But something that I found to be really cool is that Xiaomi, although they have computational photography and HDR multi-stacking and whatever else you want to say, they're keeping, at least with a specific Leica color profile or something, they're keeping the darker shadows for that more authentic camera look. I guess an SLR Leica camera look, because Leica cameras have really good dynamic range and stuff like that. And although the iPhone 13 photo has good dynamic range because you boosted the shadows and stuff like that, it destroys sort of that natural look to the photo that's, I guess you can perceive as an artistic look. And with the Xiaomi 12S like a color profile or whatever it's called, they added those shadows back because it adds contrast between highlights and shadows. So I find that to be really cool that they're basically evolving forward by bringing stuff back, but by still implementing computational photography. And I'm meaning going the HDR route, which I guess boosts shadows no matter what device you have, but they're coming back with it because they're darkening the shadows again because they really want to give you that authentic, natural look. The way you see it in real life is going to be like the Xiaomi 12S, not really like the iPhone 13 because those shadows are way too bright. And I just found this basically part to be really interesting. And I hope this darkened shadows color profile, I still don't know what to call it, I hope it works really well. I hope it's at least reminds you of SLR quality because of the dynamic range or something. So yeah, I find this to be another cool thing in this presentation. Okay, something else is that they're going to show you more photos, iPhone 13 on the left and then Xiaomi on the right, and then it's going to switch to Xiaomi photos only. So if you look at this photo really quick, the colors are absolutely amazing. There's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of dark details in this photo, from the clouds to the water to the background, which I think is an island, or I don't know what's that, and then to the person itself or themselves near this boat. And these colors are honestly really nice. I think these are the same color profiles as the iPhone 13 versus the Xiaomi 12S with the 10. The red in this photo looks really good. Like, you have no idea how impressed I am with this. If this is just a color profile with no editing, this is impressive because this color reproduction and capture is really good. I really like how this is captured. And then we're just gonna skip to the next few ones because they have more. This one, another nostalgic look. The colors in this are really good, especially the blue and the red. That's really good. So another nostalgic look of dark shadows and warm colors and stuff like that. So this is like the retro look I've mentioned earlier. And then going, we've seen that photo before, but that's basically a retro look. And also something that they mentioned a little bit further up. Another look. There we go. So, it doesn't have to be this photo, but this photo works. So you see that white bar at the bottom where it says Xiaomi 12S series, and then the Leica logo. I hope you can see my cursor. And then the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. Can I zoom in? That's fine. Oh well. Basically, that's the Leica watermark. Every photo you take can have this exact same watermark where it's the photo and then the white bar in the bottom, and it tells you focal length, aperture, ISO, shutter speed, and even coordinates if you have GPS, and time and date and stuff like that. This watermark is honestly really stylish because if you had a Huawei phone and you had the watermark, it would say like Leica quad camera setup on my P30 and stuff like that. But that watermark, it's like kind of ugly. A lot of phone watermarks are kind of ugly. No matter if you had like the Poco phone, I tested out that watermark. The OnePlus devices have a watermark toggle. And all these phones have a watermark toggle, but this Leica watermark is actually well designed because it looks kind of like an Instax photo because of that white border or whatever. So I find this, although it's a really small detail, this watermark I really do like because it adds to the artistic look of the photo. So we have a monochrome photo of someone running up the stairs, right? And you see that Leica watermark logo. Now, don't be persuaded by the Leica watermark logo. We'll explain that later. But just that border itself, it's really nice. And there's a lot of informative details like the shutter speed, ISO, stuff like that. And it's not just a bland, like Leica quad camera setup on the bottom left if you had like a Huawei phone. So I'm really impressed, again, what they're doing with the Leica camera partnership. Even a small detail like the watermark, they did it well. And that's why I keep having respect for Xiaomi. This presentation is honestly something else, and it's going to get better. Just you wait. Now, something I couldn't figure out if they said this or not is that, oh, hold on, skip forward. Okay. So you see right here that it says 50 millimeter lens and stuff like that, and it says stuff, and it's a portrait shot. And the other one before that, that's, I guess, a portrait shot. There's aperture. But basically, I'm not sure if Xiaomi is going the Vivo and Zeiss route where you had like the Zeiss planar lens and Biotar lens that were in the Vivo portrait aperture effects because it's based off of real Zeiss lenses. I'm not sure if they're doing this with Leica. I try to find details about this. I couldn't find details if whether they're basing new aperture effects based off of real Leica lenses and are putting it into the Xiaomi phone. Again, I couldn't find details on this just other than looking at the presentation and seeing 50 millimeter lens, now 99 millimeter lens, and then you can see there's a sort of like Vaseline effect on this lens, on this portrait. So I couldn't find details about this other than the presentation itself, which just doesn't specifically say, hey, these are based off of Leica lenses, but just a thought to put out there. If this is true, then they're going the Vivo Zeiss route, which I did like, but it's also interesting that it may be happening with Xiaomi now. Again, they didn't specifically say this, but based off of looking the photos and the results, the slides, they might go this route. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying I want to point it out. If you haven't seen what the Xiaomi 12S Ultra looks like, well, get ready to be stunned because we're gonna quickly watch this trailer. So that's a real Leica camera right there, and there's a Xiaomi 12S Ultra, where the Xiaomi 12S Ultra basically is inspired by a real Leica camera based off of the camera bump itself, because that camera bump is huge, and then you see the Leica logo, and then you see the Xiaomi print on the back parallel to the Leica logo because it's making you wanna hold the phone as if it was the camera. So here's the real camera. Now here's the phone. So it's a really beautiful phone. It's a really beautiful phone. I love the finish on it. It's a vegan leather. I love the subtle gold accent around the camera bump. The whole phone looks honestly amazing. The only thing is, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get the white ceramic render of the phone, because that was basically leaked a long time ago. Where just look at that. That looks amazing. That looks like a really beautiful phone. Oh yeah, going back. So the white ceramic, I'll have a picture up. I'm kind of surprised and disappointed we didn't get that. That white ceramic look really nice, especially with that traditionally red Leica logo that we see all the time. I thought that was gonna definitely appear on the 12S Ultra. That didn't happen, which just sucks. But then again, it was rumors, but those rumors and leaked renders were actually really accurate. But yeah, that ceramic white would have been really nice. I really would have thought that would have looked really beautiful on this phone. But even this vegan leather, it's really beautiful. I'm honestly really stunned that it looks a lot better than I thought it would. I really like this finish. And then also, instead of the black design, we have a gray charcoal design. And if you look at the colors presented here, besides the gray, you have the brown, you have the landscape in the back with the green and the blue haze on the mountains and the blue sky itself. Honestly, this promo image is really nice, where now even this charcoal color is really good. Again, I'm really surprised with the design of the phone. It's coming out really well, that it makes me kind of be forgiving that there's no white ceramic uh color option, because this vegan leather is honestly really good, and it's just really impressive that it looks this good. And then here we have basically more about the ultra camera, because you can't have an ultra phone without an ultra camera. And basically, Sony and Xiaomi themselves co-developed the IMX989, which is a 1-inch sensor on a phone, but it's 1 inch, if you know what I mean by 1 inch. Still, it's really cool that Xiaomi co-developed this sensor with Sony, because that basically means, instead of saying, "Hey Sony, just make a 1-inch sensor," just make a 1-inch sensor. Instead, they co-developed with Sony because Xiaomi probably really needed like better knowledge about how this sensor works, or they were looking specifically for a sensor that works a specific way, whatever that entails. I don't know. But I find it really cool that Xiaomi and Sony co-developed this sensor, because by doing that, you're basically kind of like 10 steps ahead of the competition, because instead of just letting Sony make a sensor and then putting that on your phone, you're making it with Sony and then putting it on your phone with the idea and intentions of how is this sensor supposed to work on my phone, because I expect the phone to give me these results from photography and stuff like that. So I find that to be really cool that Sony and Xiaomi co-developed this sensor. I don't know if this sensor will be available to like Pixel phones or Samsung. Well, Samsung makes their own sensors, but I'm just saying, I don't know if this will be available to other phones, but if it is available to other phones, non-Xiaomi phones, and that would be really cool. And if I skip forward for there, here we go. If so, on the left we have the iPhone 13 Pro Max's sensor, 1 over 1.65 inches, and then on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, a 1-inch sensor. Again, 1-inch sensor, and even the 1/1.65 isn't like 1/1.65, but even still, if you're an Apple person or just don't have a good understanding about how camera sensors, like how large are they or something like that, if you just base it off of, hey, I'm familiar with the iPhone 13 Pro Max's camera because I have an iPhone. Well, I don't have one, but I'm speaking on as if I had one. So this is the photo results, and this is how big the sensor is. And now if you look at the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, and if you're told on, hey, if you have a bigger sensor, then chances are the photo quality is going to look better. Then if you were led to believe that, then it would be like, whoa, this Xiaomi 12S Ultra phone, this sensor is like a lot bigger than my iPhone 13 Pro Max's sensor. And I just find that to be honestly pretty interesting because iPhone camera sensors were never big to begin with. But if you put it on scale with something like the Xiaomi 12S Ultra or even a Google Pixel 6 Pro or any other phone that has a traditionally big sensor other than iPhone, uh, it's really interesting when you put it to this visual scale, although it might not be 100% accurate, right? Because these sensors are scaled to the wall of this presentation arena, but even still, 2.72x or times larger than the iPhone 13 Pro Max. That's good. That's good. So the Xiaomi 12S Ultra phone, and I guess the Pro and the non-Pro phone, but I'm not sure about those two phones. But I know for the Ultra for sure is that they have a Leica lens coating that is supposed to reduce glare. Here we have an example, and as you can see for the 12S Ultra, there is no glare, or at least a lot more reduced glare. I do not see any glare at all. But basically, this is making me think to Vivo and Zeiss because Zeiss basically co-engineered the Vivo phones to have their Zeiss lens coating that's supposed to reduce glare, and I think intake more light. I don't know about that part, but for sure reduce more glare. And for the 12S Ultra, it looks to be working quite well. So I'm not complaining about there being a Leica lens coating or even calling it a Leica lens coating. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm just pointing it out that they did it just like Vivo and Zeiss. And from this one result, it looks pretty well. It looks pretty good. So yeah, okay, so this is a really interesting part because this is a big claim I made that wasn't really based on any evidence. It was just speculation, but I still got to take the hit for it. I basically said that Xiaomi had only worked with Leica for about 2 months, so the start of May and now on to July. That now these phones are these new Xiaomi 12s phones with the Leica partnership, just within 2 months of time, that they are now taking amazing photos, and all it took was a partnership in 2 months of time. I got that wrong because I was just led to believe by the release date of or announcement, public announcement of their Leica Xiaomi partnership, which was May 24th. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make it May, call it 2 months of time, and be like, yep, that makes sense. Partnership, 2 months of time, boom. You have really good cameras on the phone. Again, that was just based on speculation. That wasn't really based on evidence, but I'll still take the hit for it and say this was completely wrong. They've been partnered for about 8 months, so give or take October/November. So they've been partnered since October/November, 8 months of time. Mr. Lei basically confirmed this on the presentation that they've been partnered since 8 months ago, so November. And I was like, you know what? That makes a lot more sense. And it's funny because the rumors about a Leica Xiaomi camera partnership, phone camera partnership, started to like come around November, which is coincidentally the same time, or I wouldn't say coincidentally, but it just happened the same time that Xiaomi and Leica actually partnered. So within 8 months of time, not 2 months of time, they came out with the Xiaomi 12S series of phones. And I would just say that, yeah, I was wrong. I didn't think, well, of course, it would be ridiculous that would be partnered for 2 months. But I was just saying it was all based on speculation. But I'm just glad that it is confirmed. And again, Mr. Lei is being really transparent with us in this presentation. And again, a lot of respect for Mr. Lei for saying these things that I don't see any other smartphone company talking about. So yeah, they've been partnered for 8 months, and 8 months is enough time for a phone camera partnership. So yeah, basically that. Okay, so one of the last photos I kind of want to feature is from the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, which again has a 1-inch sensor, which is not 1 inch, truly 1 inch diagonal, but it's still really big. So we see it was taken with the primary sensor at 23 millimeters of focal length, at the smallest aperture it can have, or the biggest aperture it could have, I'm sorry, of f1.9. And then what really kind of threw me off is that it has an ISO of 400 and a shutter speed of 1/25. And this photo is not without, because it is vibrant, but that's not what I want to talk about. It's a night mode photo. Well, it's just a nighttime shot. It's not night mode because of that shutter speed. It's really fast, and we get this result. And this is honestly like really good. I can see, oh, well, the compression of the videos messing it for me, but I don't see any noise that's basically visible. Sharpness is really high. I can see details on the brick floor and in the background with the signs and even the rain, which is really thin. So I'm really surprised that with this kind of low of a shutter speed, or well, it's sub 1 second, so that's fast. But the ISO of 400, and we get this result of a really vibrant, pretty bright photo. Imagine what night mode is gonna look like on this phone. It's gonna look really, really HDR-y, but if you add in the Leica color filter where it adds shadow back, then I suppose this could be really good for night mode, and even just casual sub 1 second shutter speed photos for nighttime. So this is honestly pretty good. This is why the Xiaomi 12S Ultra has me hyped, because I know this sensor is capable, and I know that Xiaomi's computational photography is capable. And you put that together, you get stuff like this, which looks again really good, and I'm really satisfied with this result. Also, I have just a really quick theory that I have because this came up as a concern. So if we look at any of the photos, so let's go to here. So if you see this photo, and then we switch to the next photo, please. And this photo, I think there's one before this. And this photo, basically, these photos have a common theme that has been shown up previously from the start, from the 12S base model of phone. All of these photos look really retro and nostalgic. And I'm not sure if these photos were taken or edited or anything with the Leica color filter of Leica Vivid, or no, I'm sorry, Leica Vibrant, because Leica Vivid's for Huawei. See, the problem I have is that if you buy a Xiaomi 12S phone and are taking photos with it, and you're using the camera and you get results like this, these results are again really nostalgic and really artistic and stuff like that. But what if you just want to take a casual photo of like your dog, or like of a birthday cake or whatever, right? Of a tree, of anything, but you get results like this really moody, sort of nostalgic look, which again is very artistic. But what if this phone is just capturing scenes that looks like this, but we don't want it to look like this because we just want that boosted shadows, we just want that HDR look and stuff like that, but it turns out a lot darker and moody and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that the Leica authentic look, because we've seen the Leica authentic look before, like that looks fine. It's not moody. It's really standard. Uh, it's a really standard color science. But I'm just wondering, are people ever going to be in a position where these Xiaomi 12S phones, for whatever reason, even with the Leica authentic look, which is the standard look, it's going to take a moody photo with dark shadows or whatever, and it's trying to be artistic, it's trying to be natural, but consumers aren't going to want that because they want the boosted shadows and they want the HDR look and they don't want the nostalgic look and whatever. I'm just wondering if this will be a problem because again, not every photo we take needs to be artistic. And I'm just hoping that this is just like a vibrant color filter or something like that. But yeah, I really hope that there is a stark difference between the Leica color profiles and the Leica authentic look, which is the standard one. So yeah, I'm just saying, I hope I'm wrong about this. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about this because I want to be wrong about this, but it's just a concern I have because I don't want to have a phone that starts taking moody photos when I don't want it to be moody. I just want it to be casual. Because again, cameras are casual. They don't need to be artistic. Even if you have a Leica phone, it's fine. And one of the last few things for these Xiaomi phones is HyperOIS, which is sort of like gimbal stabilization that we've seen with the Vivo phones. I think it's a combination of OIS, which is basically shifting the camera lens to account for movement, and it's also sensor shift. I think it's sensor shift as well, in combination with the lens OIS. And then we have Dolby Vision, which I hope is gonna work really well, because if you know anything about Dolby Vision on iPhone, I think it's on iPhone. Dolby Vision on iPhone is supposedly really good. So now that we have Dolby Vision advanced HDR with ultra vivid colors and whatever else, right? I hope it looks really good when you play back on your Xiaomi 12S phones, because those phones have a 12-bit panel. If I'm not mistaken, they have a 12-bit panel, or their cameras are 12-bit or something like that. Does it say here? I have no idea. But I'm just saying overall, Dolby Vision on this phone, I hope it's killer, because this photography experience on the 12S Ultra seems to be killer. So I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about some of the Weibo posts of Xiaomi's official account, because it's basically a roundup of everything we talked about. So what I really like about these Weibo posts is that they introduce a lot of details that I've basically sort of criticized or theorized in my latest video about camera partnerships. And one of the things they've kept mentioning over and over again is that the Leica partnership is actually meaningful and not useless, because they talk stuff about collaborating with Sony. And although Leica wasn't probably had any say in that or was part of it, Xiaomi collaborating with Sony to make the 1-inch sensor, that's cool. And then collaborating and telling us that, oh, with Leica, we're going to add the Leica lens coding. Okay, that's cool. And then they did talk about stuff like color calibration and other things like that, and the optics and whatever, but they kept telling us what they're doing together, what Xiaomi and Leica is doing together. And although some of it was still a little bit vague, even though it did get specific, like a specific example would be like the Leica lens coding. I think we can see it right here. So yeah, the optics, right? So it's really cool that they keep mentioning like, oh, this is what we did in collaboration with Leica. And they, again, some of it was still a little bit vague. I can't find the other posts that I'm looking for about the collaboration, but some of the more general ones are mentioned here. And I find that to be really cool because, like Mr. Lay said in the beginning, people think partnering with a camera company is PR, and maybe it is PR, but at least Xiaomi is telling us, hey, oh, it might be PR, but here's what we did anyways. And some of it is specific. And again, round of applause to Xiaomi for opening up like this. Because again, I have a lot of respect for Xiaomi for doing this, because they basically have not entirely solved the problem, but they're acknowledging a lot of everything I said in my latest video. So again, thank you, Xiaomi, for opening it up and being a lot more transparent than the others. And then Xiaomi also released this Leica video on Weibo. And basically what had happened is that they had, I think, 3 Leica engineers go to China in person with Xiaomi, so that the Xiaomi camera sensors and software is up to par with Leica's standards and stuff like that. But something really, really, really cool I found to be really interesting, that if you watch this video and you listen to what they talk about, they tell you that working with Leica was not easy, that they had many struggles, that just like the camera sensor tuning was just off, or that there was weird hues with the camera capture or something like that. They talk about their struggles, which is again really cool that Xiaomi's being transparent like this. And I really do appreciate it, because again, they are acknowledging that they are Xiaomi and Leica are working together very extensively. They're really putting effort into this, and some of this stuff is just hard to achieve. And I'm glad they're not acting like it was easy, because again, I would be led to believe that, oh, you're just slapping your PR. I mean, you're just slapping your logo to the phones, and that's just PR. And sure, they do sensor tuning and whatever, but it probably doesn't mean much. But if you look at this video, I don't have the audio, but if you were to watch this video yourself, you would see that, oh, actually, they're talking about it right now. See, they're talking about that the image is brighter than what it should be and stuff like that. And they keep talking about stuff like this. And it's honestly, again, really impressive that they're showing their struggles with this. Because again, that sort of transparency is not found with any other company. And especially with the camera partnership thing. Like, dude, this is awesome. This is really awesome that they're being transparent like this. Okay, now I'm just gonna basically go over my predictions and speculations I had with my other video. So here's just random video. The video doesn't need to be specific. So I'm just having it let it play out to see if any interesting details come across when I keep talking. So what had happened is that I've speculated a lot of things about the Xiaomi Leica camera partnership, and a lot of it was false. They proved me basically wrong, which is actually really funny, because I posted that video like 5 days ago or something. It wasn't too long ago. So now I'm going to go over everything I predicted and basically say, was I right or was I wrong? So starting with the first one, the photographic effect based on Ice Universe's tweet. Now, I never knew what Ice Universe meant by photographic effect that basically mimics or rivals a DSLR. I was kind of led to believe, oh, that means bokeh. The bokeh effect and the bokeh cutouts are really good or something. And that's why I basically said in my video that, oh, if you have a time of flight sensor and the computational photography, that's the photographic effect that Ice Universe is talking about, or that's kind of what I led to believe. I still don't know what Ice Universe is talking about by a photographic effect that basically is as good as DSLRs. I thought it had to also do with dynamic range. I don't know. I just don't know what it means to be a photographic effect, because by calling it an effect, you're kind of implying that it's artificial, like computational photography, and not hardware based. So for that one, I would say I couldn't prove or disprove it, because the Ice Universe tweet wasn't too specific. So I don't know about that. And then the next one we have is the 3 or 4 reasons on how phone photography can improve, basically without having a camera partnership involved. So the 3 reasons I mentioned is like if you have a bigger sensor, computational photography improvements, more camera sensors even, and just stuff like that. So the big two ones is computational photography and bigger sensors. Oh, and better sensor hardware like RYYB and whatever else. So I basically said that you can have your camera for your smartphone improve annually with each new model without having a phone camera partnership, and all you really need is improve your computational photography, improve your camera hardware, and make the sensor size bigger and stuff like that. So this did apply because we did have a larger, a one inch primary sensor. So that's how you can get better camera photography experience on a phone without having the Leica camera partnership. But even still, uh, I guess this part is right. You don't need a partnership to improve on your cameras. But even still, I don't know. That's right. But that was half applicable to this with the new 1 inch sensor and computational photography and stuff like that. So I guess that's just expected. And the next one we have is, again, Leica does not have computational photography. I still cannot prove or disprove this. I still do not know if Leica owns any computational photography. From the Weibo video I just showed you, it looks like that engineer was basically saying, hey, the exposure is too bright and the color is wrong and stuff like that. I don't really think they did computational photography, or Leica has any computational photography or works on computational photography. So again, I cannot prove that and I cannot disprove that. So that question still floats, but maybe something to consider about, because they probably don't have any. So I really don't know. The next one I said, this is a big one, that the partnership between Xiaomi and Leica is meaningless. And this is not 100% true because, again, Mr. Lei right here uh, basically answered a lot of my questions. He acknowledged the PR stunt, or the theory that's a PR stunt, acknowledged with the Weibo video that it's more than just saying, hey, brightness is too high, you lower it down, because they had struggles. They had a lot of struggles basically tuning their computational photography and their sensors and stuff like that. And it took them 8 months, like the presenter said. It must have been Mr. Lei or the other presenter, that it took Xiaomi 8 months for them to be Leica certified. And I guess that Leica certification isn't that easy. So not even for Xiaomi and their computational photography and their better hardware. So yeah, I'm not saying the Leica partnership is useless with Xiaomi. I think it actually does have merit because Mr. Lei basically confirmed a lot of my speculations that would never go answered. But he answered them out of nowhere. And again, that's still really cool. So yeah, this Leica Xiaomi camera partnership, it it still is probably PR, but at least they're answering questions. And I'm all for that transparency. So another thing I said, as I mentioned earlier, that I said they were partnered since the start of May. That's not true. They were partnered since basically October or November. So I got that one completely wrong, but I just had no evidence for that statement. So I just had to go off of the announcement of the partnership. So that's wrong. And another thing I said is Xiaomi's computational photography is the reason why the 12S series of phones take better photos. That's also partially true. They do have better camera hardware with larger sensors. They do have better computational photography, but that's not completely the reason why, but I guess you can still consider a major portion of it, right? And then last thing, the bokeh effect. So I said that Xiaomi's bokeh effect for portrait mode was going to be really good. And that was because of the time of flight sensor and computational photography. But funny enough, they barely touched on portraits. The whole presentation was like Leica related, like, hey, this is what we did with Leica. And I'm really glad for that transparency and stuff like that and the whole Leica presentation. But they didn't really dive into portraits all that much. They didn't really talk about, oh, look at our aperture bokeh cutout for subjects and stuff like that. So that one's still left hanging in the air because it was never really answered that their portrait bokeh cutouts are better than last year's or anything like that. But still, the two that I guess makes me feel like everything I said in my last video was 50% right out of all the speculations I had. So the two that are really cutting it for me, that makes it 50%, is one, I got the date wrong about them being partnered for 2 months. They've been partnered with 8 months, and that's obviously better than 2 months. So I'm glad it did turn out that way. And it makes sense for them to delay their announcement until basically last month, or at least 2 months ago, right? So that's wrong, and I'm glad that's wrong. And the other part is that the Leica partnership is useless. And again, I'm here to argue, or at least change my answer, that this Xiaomi Leica partnership is not useless. And the only reason it's not useless is because of how Mr. Lei, excuse me, how Mr. Lei basically confirmed a lot of the things I said, or at least that had gone unanswered. So that, like a partnership, that it's not useless because they did more than tune their sensors. They introduced this and did that and did that, and that's what is making me think that this Leica Xiaomi camera partnership is not useless and actually holds a lot of merit to. And I'm really glad for this sort of transparency. So thank you, CEO, for doing this, because honestly, this is one of the coolest presentations I have ever seen for a smartphone. This presentation is really cool because of a lot of the things they introduced with the Leica camera partnership. So again, this whole presentation has me hanging in the air of just like excitement. I'm just like floating because these phones look really good. And I'm really happy that transparency and everything I called for in my last video is what made this presentation to be really something else. So yeah, I'm really happy with the results, not only of the camera partnership and the photo results, but how everything was answered by the CEO and the other presenters. So again, round of applause to Xiaomi for this transparency, and other companies, please be more transparent. If you have a Leica, or not Leica, if you just have a phone camera partnership, please be more transparent. I need this sort of information, so I don't need to make videos on you that, oh, I need to theorize that you're doing this wrong or right or whatever. Just be more transparent, please. And just one last thing, I want to end this video because I looked at the runtime of this video, or at least of the clips I'm making, and they're long. I said this video was going to be quick, probably like 15 minutes or something. I was wrong. Completely wrong, because you know what? This presentation, again, is really good. And that's why I had to go explain a lot more in detail than I thought it would say. So yeah. So the last thing I want to end off of is not really too much of a good note. It's Xiaomi's first Leica phones, the 12S phones, aren't coming to global markets. It's going to be basically a China exclusive for however long. And this is basically what they did, or OnePlus did with the 10 Pro, the OnePlus 10 Pro. It took like 5 months or whatever after it was released in China to hit the global market. So if it takes like 5 months or however long for this, or for these phones to be released to global markets, probably at that point in time, probably just make a new phone, maybe like maybe the Xiaomi 13 phones, if they want to go down that route. But if it's 5 months from now and we still get the Xiaomi 12S phones, I don't have a problem with that, because this phone, again, is really good for a lot of different reasons. And this presentation is really, again, when I first watched it live, I was like, whoa, this presentation is going a lot better than I thought it would be, because I thought, again, it was going to be like the Huawei Leica presentations where it's like, oh, we have a Ultravision Penta camera setup, partnership with Leica and stuff like that. That didn't really show up. And that's why this presentation was awesome. There was transparency. The videos they made was really cool. They answered a lot of questions that would otherwise go unanswered. Seriously, unanswered. There would be no reason for them to be answered. Like what a Leica camera partnership means and the struggles of computational photography because of that example from the Weibo video and stuff like that. This presentation is awesome. Seriously, really, really, really awesome. It might not like the presentation itself might seem boring or corporate or whatever the heck, but what makes it awesome is for the same reasons I keep explaining before. Transparency and stuff like that, and being more direct and stuff like that. That's what makes this presentation honestly one of the best presentations for a phone I have ever seen, and I truly do mean that. I've seen a lot of phone presentations, from iPhones to Pixel phones to Samsung phones to the Huawei phones, stuff like that, and the Poco phones and stuff like that. But this Xiaomi presentation is something else. And that's it. I guess I'm gonna leave that on that note. The Xiaomi 12S phones aren't coming to global market, not right away. But this presentation, it's awesome. These phones are awesome. The Leica camera partnership, awesome. Everything about the phones, everything about this presentation, I really do enjoy. I seriously do. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching what was supposed to be a casual reaction video and commentary video. It's casual. It's casual, right? Because you can tell that I'm speaking a lot. Super casual. I didn't really cut this video all too much because I just spoke my mind. And that's it. And that's why this video is probably going to be 40 minutes long. Or 50. I have no idea. But thank you again for watching. I hope you learned something today. I know a lot of my videos are about me telling you this and that and this and that. But the lesson today is that Xiaomi, you should have a lot of respect for them. Just based off of this presentation alone. From the open source computation photography, transparency, everything. I have a lot of respect for Xiaomi. A lot of respect for Xiaomi. A lot of respect for Xiaomi. Oh my god. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you have any comments or anything, that would be greatly appreciated because I would still like to talk about everything they announced here. So yeah, what a informal and messy way to do this video, and an informal and messy sign out. But you know what? Whatever. Whatever. I'm having fun. It's been a really fun day, all because of the reel of the phone. I don't care if the video is 50 minutes long. This was fun. This was really fun, and I really do mean that. So yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on these phones if I can, but I hope I can. So yeah, thank you again. Bye bye.